What do you do if you love someone and they can't even remember who you are? Marceline is luckier than most because she got to see the Ice King again in his true form as her father figure, Simon Petrikov. But the road leading up to that moment was strewn with misadventure and heartache, probably more than you realize. I'm going to make sense of it all by following her millennium-long story from a young Marcy to the strong woman she becomes. Along the way, I'll examine their relationship through the lens of dementia and explore psychological concepts like attachment theory, acceptance and love, and ambiguous loss. Long before Marceline became a vampire, she was a half-human, half-demon toddler trying to survive in the aftermath of the Mushroom War. Her mother, Elise, was her first protector, a fiercely loving figure who tried her best to keep Marceline safe in the chaos. We only see glimpses of her, a mother who sacrificed everything for her daughter, but the unforgiving post-apocalyptic world claimed Elise's life far too soon, leaving Marceline completely alone. Her father, Hansen Abadir, ruler of the Nightosphere, didn't step in to fill the void. He was far more concerned with his duties as a demon king than with being a parent, and his occasional returns into Marceline's life throughout the series feel more like interruptions than reconnections. Now, it's pretty much common sense that being abandoned in the aftermath of a cataclysmic event would wreak havoc on a child's development. Attachment theory backs us up, emphasizing that consistent, loving bonds with caregivers are essential for building emotional security, trust, and not to mention survival. This lack of nurturing care left Marceline with a profound longing for connection and safety that would shape her relationships and sense of self for at least a millennium to come. But it also left her with a massive Simon Petrikov-sized void in her heart. If it wasn't for him, who knows what would have happened to her? Before the Mushroom War, Simon was an archaeologist and antiquarian. But by the time Marceline meets him, Simon is already teetering on the edge of losing himself to the power of the Ice Crown. Despite this, he finds her, a scared, abandoned toddler, and decides to take care of her, becoming the protector and father figure she desperately needs. Simon gives Marceline not only physical safety in the chaos of the post-apocalyptic world, but also emotional warmth. He sings to her and makes her laugh, moments of care that aren't just sweet, they're foundational. For a child who's known nothing but loss, Simon represents love, stability, and hope. He is in all aspects, except for genetics, her dad. But Simon's love for Marceline came at a cost. The crown, the ancient artifact he used to protect them from the horrors of the world, was slowly taking over his mind. Every time he put it on, it chipped away at his memories and his sense of self. Yet Simon kept using it for Marceline. Even as he realized the crown was erasing who he was, he chose to sacrifice his identity for her safety. This dynamic is heartbreakingly familiar to anyone who's cared for someone with dementia. As the disease progresses, loved ones, who might have looked after you for your whole life, begin to forget who you are, and the burden often falls on the people who love them most. But even as the Ice King, with his fractured mind and erratic behavior, Marceline never stopped loving Simon. His transformation into the Ice King wasn't sudden. It was a slow and painful process. At first, there were small signs, forgetting details, losing track of time, moments where he seemed distant. But as the crown's power consumed him, those moments became the norm. Marceline had to watch the man who sang to her, who kept her safe, who was her father in every way that mattered, disappear into madness. Simon was no more. He became unpredictable, obsessed with capturing princesses, and, most devastatingly, he entirely forgot who Marceline was. To Marceline, this felt like saying a final goodbye to a parent. She could no longer be sure if he was still in there. Psychologists often describe this as ambiguous loss, a type of grief that occurs when someone you love is both here and gone at the same time. It's a form of heartbreak that never truly goes away. But Marceline never gave up on Simon. In the episode, I Remember You, we see one of the most powerful examples of this love. Ice King, oblivious to their shared past, approaches Marceline to help him write a song. At first, it seems like another one of his strange, misplaced attempts to connect, but she humours him, and as they sing together, fragments of Simon's old self resurface in the lyrics. I'm sorry I don't remember you. Please forgive me for whatever I do when I don't remember you. For Marceline, this was a moment of bittersweet validation, and for us watching, soul-crushingly beautiful. Somewhere buried beneath the madness, Simon was still there. Here was proof. It didn't fix things, it didn't bring Simon back, but it reminded her why she kept loving him, even when it hurt. This is the paradox of real love. It isn't always easy or fair, and sometimes it feels entirely one-sided, but it is enduring. Marceline loved Simon not because she thought she could fix him, but because love, real love, remains even when the person you love can't give it back. Marceline's journey wasn't just shaped by Simon's sacrifices for her, it was shaped by how she carried that love through the centuries. Even as the Ice King forgot her entirely, Marceline couldn't let go of the man he used to be. When Finn and Jake discover the Ice King's old tapes, they're ready for a good time, expecting more of his usual weirdness. But what they uncover is something much, much darker. The tapes reveal fragments of Simon's transformation into the Ice King, his struggles, his fear, and his desperate attempts to hold on to himself. Marceline doesn't appear in these episodes, but for the viewer, it's a window into why her love for Simon endured. He even sings his own rendition of Marceline's song, Daddy, Why Did You Eat My Fries?, which has to do with her feelings of hurt and neglect caused by her real father.
Gunter, why did you goont my fries?
Even at his lowest, Simon's humanity never fully disappeared, and he always seemed to have a fondness for Marceline, even though he didn't understand why. Marceline clung to the past, not out of denial, but because it was her way of honoring Simon's sacrifice. She knew he couldn't remember her, but she remembered enough for both of them. It's this unreciprocated devotion that makes her story so powerful. Psychologists often talk about unrequited love, not just in romantic relationships, but in family dynamics as well. Loving someone who can't love you back in the way you need is one of the most painful experiences a person can endure. But Marceline never stopped loving Simon because her love was never about what he could give her. It was about what he had already given. This is where the concept of acceptance in love becomes so important, another term often used by psychologists. Marceline's love for Simon wasn't just about devotion, it was about acceptance. Acceptance that Simon, as she knew him, was gone, unreachable. For most of us, this kind of acceptance doesn't come easily. We want to fix the people we love. We want to bring them back, to fight for the person they used to be. But Marceline's story shows us that real love doesn't always work that way. Again, looking at the episode I Remember You, as Marceline sings with the Ice King, she lets herself feel the weight of the man he used to be, without denying the reality of who he is now. From the outside, the songwriting session looked strange to Finn and Jake, because how could they understand? For Marceline, it's about honoring the connection they still shared, even if it's just a fragment of what it once was. It's this balance of holding on to what was while accepting what is that defines Marceline's journey, and it's what makes her story resonate so deeply. In the finale of the 10th season, Marceline finally sees Simon restored to his true self. For the first time in centuries, Simon Petrikov stands before her, free from the crown's curse. This happens after the Ice King is transformed to his earlier self inside GOLB, thanks to Betty's final selfless wish for Simon to be safe. Betty, the love of Simon's life, sacrifices herself to save him, using the power of the crown to rewrite reality and free him from his curse. Another instance of selfless love, which I might explore in a future video. It's a moment of overwhelming joy, but also of profound sadness. After everything they've been through, the Simon she loved is back, but the time they lost is something they can never get back. Real love, as Marceline's story shows us, isn't about erasing the pain or undoing the past. It's about holding on through the hardest moments, honoring the sacrifices made, and finding meaning in the connections we've built, even if you get nothing in return.